Sunday cannot get here soon enough, but at least it's now not far off into the distance. It's tangible. It's here. It's game week for Miami football, and not the typical ho-hum opener for a second consecutive year. A big opponent, and this time Notre Dame comes to Hard Rock for the first time since 2017, and I know that that brings chuckles and smiles to your faces. So if you can get something close to that, or even a 1-point win, I'm sure that Canes Nation will be happy. We talk Miami football with all of you, of course, here at the Voice of College Football at 7 p.m. Eastern time on a Wednesday night. That means we got Cam Underwood right next to me. 441 shows. Can you believe it? Catch Cam and the rest of the staff at the State of the U, stateoftheu.com. Cam, I'm guessing you're getting fired up as the days roll on.
I mean, I stay ready, so I don't got to get ready. You know what I mean? It's really just a matter of what the calendar reads. But yeah, man, good to be here. Glad to, we are in a game week. So, we are pushing towards the season opener. Very, very excited. Y'all know it's my cousin's birthday. I always say that. So for August the 31st. So yeah, it is having the opener on his birthday again for a second consecutive year. And yeah, come on over and fan with us, stateoftheu.com. I told you that we got new contributors. So Jordan just wrote his first piece looking at some of the projections, and he'll have even more. We have all of our preseason stuff. The first installment of our roundtable, with our contributors talking about and previewing the season is up there. Your X's and O's preview, your film preview from Justin DeTavio up every Thursday. Oh, hey, wait, that's tomorrow. There's that and more. And we have Friendly in the feed, which is the new feature. The managing editor from the Notre Dame side, One Foot Down, Joshua Voles, he's over there to interact and engage, and I'm over there on One Foot Down as well. So we got it covered on all sides in great ways. We're the leaders in commentary and analysis for the Miami Hurricanes. So please come over and fan with us, stateoftheu.com, at Underwood Sports, all the places that you know and love. And yes, we will be there live and in person on Sunday. I cannot wait to kick this season off.
Comments, questions are always welcome, but especially game week, we will take those. The Super Chat conversations, of course, catch our eye as Falconer TRX leads us off. It's customary, and it just seems appropriate for week one with a big showdown against Notre Dame. Falconer TRX, thank you so much for the super sticker in red.
Yeah. And thank you for being back. I know that we did some of the midday, between meetings kind of thing, so you weren't there. Shout out to Leroy, the Black Ninja Turtle, for the ones that he had a couple times back to back and everything as well. But yeah, good to be here with you guys. My energy was lagging just a little bit. So I know I'm not usually a person who needs energy, but got my trusty Red Bull here. So if that's why I'm talking even faster than I normally talk, this is a thing that I always have done my entire life. When I get hyped, I talk fast. Y'all know that about me. You've been watching umpteen million of these videos. So, yeah, man, really, really excited to see this team, put the goods on the field, man. Let's make it happen.
And again, of course, the focus is on football and on Miami in particular, but keep in mind that your support goes a long way. Please like the video. It's an easy thing to do. And why is that important? No, it doesn't stroke my ego or Cam's. It's about the algorithms of the YouTube telling the operation that, hey, people watch it, they like it, therefore we're going to push it out to more people. So please like the video, subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. We just passed 10,000 subs, and of course your financial contributions keep us going as well.
Come on, making that happen. I love to see it. Like, subscribe, all those things. Shout out Mike Jeezy in the building. And he says Beck is from his hometown of Duval. And I said it the right way, not the way that Liam Cohen, the new Jags coach, said. But yeah, enough preamble for me. I will let Mark take it away as we get going.
About 6 weeks ago, we had Brian Driscoll on from Irish Breakdown. You can that live stream is still relevant. Go back and watch that as a breakdown of the game coming up. But hey, we're going to freshen it up with Brian's colleague. We got Trevor Trobridge coming in from Irish Breakdown Podcast as well. Trevor, good to see you. Thanks for jumping on with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Cam, I got to say something, man. I like you, man. You said something that I say all the time on the show. Stay ready, never have to get ready. I love that.
Hey, come on now.
I love that, man.
Yeah, it's just that was a mantra. I mean, just my entire life. when I was playing sports. I was a music teacher, so I would say the same, because it's performance. It's not, it's a, performing against the standard. But I tell my kids, I say, hey, we got to stay ready. And there would be times that administration would call down in the middle of third period. Hey, the superintendent or somebody is coming. Can we get a performance over there? Cool. Boom. Call them out of class. Oh, well, we have because we stay ready. So yeah, that's always been my mentality and everything. But yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. I'm glad to have you, man. Excited to chop it up before the game. I'm going to start off with the first question. It's something that's been on my brain. And so, like, one of the things the entire offseason, I talked about this with Brian, is I feel like the pendulum has swung way too far on Carson Beck to the he's trash side. I know he had some bad games. I know that there are bad moments. I know there was double the turnovers last year, but I think it's been way overstated as time has gone on. Now that you guys have announced Lloyd Carr's grandson, CJ Carr from Saline, Michigan, as the starter, something that I've seen, and not necessarily from you, so I'm not ascribing this to you, but to Notre Dame fans, and this is something that Falconer TRX brings up, is there seems in the last week to be an overwhelming confidence that CJ Carr is better than Carson Beck today, right now. He phrases it as seriously, but like, I'll just say, what are your thoughts on the topic? Because that seems a little premature, at least.
Sure.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I mean, Notre Dame fans were excited when CJ Carr was announced as starter, in the same light that Miami fans were excited to know that they were going from the Cam Ward era to the Carson Beck era. Understandably so. You get a guy with 2 years of starting experience at Georgia. There's not going to be a stage that Carson Beck gets on that's going to overwhelm him in any capacity. We're talking about somebody that's played in multiple conference championship games. He's played against Alabama. He's played against LSU. So that I understand completely. As of today, right now, on August 27th, I personally can't say that CJ Carr today is better than what Carson Beck is, because the next meaningful pass that CJ Carr throws at the collegiate level will be the first meaningful pass that CJ Carr throws at the collegiate level. And that's something that I'm well aware of. Now, why are Notre Dame fans excited? Hey, look, man, you get it. We cover college sports. And this is something that there's going to be extremes on either side of the fan base. You know what I mean? Some that you have to convince your fan base that your team is that good, and some that you kind of have to tamper down expectations. Mm-hmm. And I like to believe that at Irish Breakdown, we fall somewhere in the middle, providing good analytics. And part of that is CJ Carr's yet to throw a meaningful pass in college. And so if we're talking about experience, there are games that you can go and look back to and say, hey, Carson Beck performed this way when the pressure was on. Mm-hmm. When they're down by 3 scores at home against Georgia Tech, we saw the level of poise that he had. For CJ Carr, there is a lot of projection. It's a lot of, hey, we think he's going to be able to do this because. But in short, to answer your question, man, I can't confidently say as of today, CJ Carr is a better college quarterback than Carson Beck, because we haven't watched him take a meaningful snap yet.
Just to toss in something briefly, let's understand that 6 of the top 8 teams in college football in the preseason poll are starting quarterbacks who have never thrown a meaningful pass. Yeah. So this is not an uncommon thing. I think it's a bit more frequent and prevalent this season than any season I can remember, where the elites are counting on, okay, we didn't go to the transfer portal like Notre Dame did with Hartman and Leonard, where we finally got a guy in the room that we believe that we can ride with him despite the inexperience.
No, fair. And I mean, like, if you have that guy, then, you go with them. I mean, obviously Miami's not had that guy. So we, had to go shopping several times recently. So stay on CJ Carr. Tell me about him. What does he do well? What are the things that he can bring that would challenge Miami's defense? And apart from just inexperience at this level, what are maybe some of the, operational things that are areas for growth or potential causes for concern, on Sunday night?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll start off with the, what he brings to the table and somewhat of the intangibles. CJ Carr has gained a reputation of just being a very high-level football IQ guy. And as you guys know, when you're starting quarterback at this high of a level in college, it's something that you have to have with you. You can have all the athletic intangibles that you want to, but until the mental side of the game comes along with it, you're going to have a relatively low ceiling. We saw early in spring games with CJ Carr his ability to make second, third level reads on a defense, and he was doing that as an early enrollee true freshman. And so since then, he's been able to build on that. Now, is he the high-end athlete? I'm not sure. I can't confidently say that because, again, limited sample size. I don't want to read too much into, well, this one time in this one spring game, he looked fantastic. It's like, okay, let's take that with a grain of salt. But there isn't a throw on the field that he can't make. I don't know if he can air it out and it's going to travel 70 yards in the air. But I have seen personally at practices throughout fall camp, in the spring game, and various jersey scrimmages, if there's a spot that he wants to put the ball, he has the ability to do that. Now, So outside of the experience piece, the caveat to that is he's a very confident kid. And he's somebody that has a lot of confidence in his ability to throw the football. So, and I'm sure Miami fans have seen the reports about it. He does have the tendency. He has a little bit of that gunslinger to him. You know, think back to, you remember Deshaun Watson in 2016, how he had a fantastic year, but also had 17 interceptions. You know, I don't know if CJ Carr is going out and throwing 17 interceptions his first year as a starter, but mentality is a little bit like that. One of the things that makes him so great is his ability to push the ball down the field and fit into extremely tight windows. Sometimes you have to take a little bit of the good with the bad with him. But as you guys have seen in recent years with Notre Dame quarterbacks, it's going to be really difficult to win a championship throwing dump-off passes for 60 minutes. And so that also kind of fed into a little bit of the decision with CJ Carr. It's one of the things that helps separate him in the competition.
Okay. Do you think at all that there's a chance that Kenny Minchie, I mean, absent injury, because like that's always that looms over everything, but like intentionally, schematically, or like organizationally, do you think that there's a chance that Kenny Minchie sees the field, whether it's a package, whether it's a rotation? Like, is there any thought that maybe both quarterbacks find their way onto the field?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, potentially on Sunday night and then definitely throughout the season. I mean, Marcus Freeman said it in his press conference yesterday. They have two guys that they're extremely confident in. And when he sat them down to have the conversation with them, it was hey, CJ's a starter. Kenny, this is going to be your role, but we're going to need both of you guys throughout the season. Now, I don't think it's going to be a situation where CJ has a short leash. If he goes in and makes a couple mistakes and dirts a couple of balls or maybe throws a pick, I don't know if the leash is going to be so short that he has to be looking over his shoulder a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I do think that there's going to be some schematic advantage to putting Kenny Minchie in the game because he does have a little bit of a different skill set than what CJ Carr brings to the table.
Okay. All right. Cool. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price. Go.
Look, man, I mean, you kind of answered half the question right there. It's a fantastic running back duo. It's not very often that Notre Dame can enter a season where they say, hey, they have the number one returning running back in the country, and they have a fantastic rotational guy in Jadarian Price as well. Look, even sometimes within the Notre Dame fan base, for whatever reason, Price has become kind of a polarizing player amongst some Notre Dame fans. Look, fact of the matter is he's somebody that if Jeremiah Love wasn't in South Bend, and believe me, very happy that he is, J.D. Price would be putting up a lot of numbers in that offense. He would. He's a very talented running back. But the way that they used both of them last year was perfect. I mean, Jeremiah Love averaged a little bit over 11 touches a game. And when you're playing a potentially 14, 15, 16 game season, you don't want your heralded offensive star touching the ball 20 to 22 times a game.
Yeah.
Going to be interested to see what their new running back coach does this season and how he helps manage that rotation. Because, you go from Dylan McCullough, who had a lot of experience in that field, to Jay One-Sider, who was coming from Penn State. He was tasked with rotating Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton.
Oh, God, he's there now?
Yeah.
God, now that just means you guys are going to recruit in South Florida. Like, oh. What? I mean, I've known Sider for a long time. He's well-renowned as both a coach and a recruiter down here. So from all the things. I think it'll be okay on the rotation. My thing is, as I was just looking up the statistics to refresh my memory, Riley Leonard carried the ball like 130 times, 125 times. So, I don't want to answer for you, but I mean, it begs the question, do you think insert player here at quarterback will have that large of an impact numbers wise in the running game, not even necessarily from the yardage, but from the carries intentionally. Like, do you think that the quarterbacks are going to run as much as, the athlete that you had at quarterback last year?
No,
17 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Out of your quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
184 carries, 906 yards, 17 tuds, which tied him with Jeremiah Love. So, you're taking basically 190 carries. I know the quarterbacks are going to run some. I'm answering for you, but I would think that something like 160, 175 of those carries now get split up between Love, Price, and insert third back here.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a really hot topic of conversation in kind of the Notre Dame fan base world, because that is a big gaping hole. It's 3rd and 2. You know where the ball's going. It's QB draw, QB counter, QB power to number 13. And more times than not, you're converting. When you're down in the red zone, quarterbacks don't get 17 rushing touchdowns by accident, and so when you look at his you said 184 carries on the season, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you look at his 184 carries, here's what's interesting about college. Some of those are sacks. Some of those are scrambles that get counted as rushing attempts for him. Now, what I will say is, to answer your question, no, whoever starts at quarterback this year for Notre Dame will not be used in the same capacity that what Riley Leonard was used in as a rusher.
Yeah.
And so you start talking about, okay, how do you divvy up those carries? Do you split it 50-50 between Love and Price? I think it's going to be more of a, let's just say, to make math easy, take sacks out of it, take scrambles out of it. To make math easy, he has an even 100 actual rushing attempts on the season. I could see a scenario where, say, 30 of those just get converted into passes. Those turn into passing attempts. Then out of the remaining 70, I could see it in a world where, Jeremiah Love gets 40 of them and Jadarian Price gets 30 of them. And Notre Dame has a very deep running back room, so some of those are going to go to Aeneas Williams or Jabron Payne or Nolan James Jr., who's a true freshman this year. So it can get split up in a bunch of different ways, but Cam, they're not going to run CJ Carr or Kenny Minchie anywhere close, in my opinion, to the same capacity that they did Leonard.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, okay, I was going to play semantics, but it was a difference without a distinction. I think that some of the scrambles are the ones that turn into passes, and then whatever. So it's whatever. I mean, it's splitting hairs the long. I mean, I'm bald now, but it's splitting hairs the long way to figure out those numbers. But yeah, that was a big thing. And I definitely wanted to ask about it because for the last, I think in a more impactful way than against other teams in the last 20 years, mobile running quarterbacks have really, really, really been the thorn in Miami's side. So, adding a quarterback into the math of the run game just changes everything in a different kind of way. So, I definitely wanted to bring that kind of a thing up. Jagusa's not playing, is he? The offensive line?
No.
He wasn't on the depth chart. I don't think he's going to play.
Nope. He had an arm injury earlier in the summer, and so he's out. He will return at some point this season, but Jagasaw is out. So right guard will either be redshirt freshman Gerby Lambert or a redshirt sophomore Sullivan Absher.
Okay. Talk to me about the offensive line for the Irish. I think that this is a game featuring either the top 2 offensive lines in the country or 2 of the top 3. I think that y'all and us have really, really elite offensive lines. Just talk to me about who's going to play and just how that's become foundational for the offensive success for the Irish.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, the trench warfare battle on Sunday night, I'm sure we can all agree, is going to be one that, if you appreciate good football, especially depending on what the weather's looking like down in Miami, it's going to be one where you need the big boys up front to do their job. The outlook on Notre Dame's offensive line is significantly different in week 1 this year compared to where it was at last year. Last year, they're traveling down to College Station. They get Texas A&M on the road, top 20 matchup, and they return 6 combined starts on the offensive line. And the center, who was 3 of those starts, was out for the season by game 3. And so Notre Dame's offensive line had a lot of different injuries. Unfortunately, this is back-to-back years where Charles Jagasaw is going to miss time at the beginning of the season because of an injury in the offseason. And so through that, Notre Dame was able to get a lot of younger guys now significantly more experience. As somebody that now covers the team. I wasn't at this point last year, but it was not on my bingo card for Anthony Knapp, a true freshman, to start at left tackle when Charles Jagusah went down. But he stepped in. He held his own against Nick Scourton, the edge rusher from Texas A&M, who's now in the league. Now, was it perfect? No. Was he also a true freshman? He was. So he now returns. He has 15 career starts under his belt. Left guard, Billy Schrouth. He is a veteran. When you go back and you pull up some of the numbers, when he's in the starting lineup, Notre Dame averages over 200 rushing yards a game. He didn't allow a single pressure in the postseason, and that was going against Indiana, Georgia, Penn State, and Ohio State. Didn't allow a single pressure there. Ashton Craig, it's kind of the same thing. When he's on the field, he is an exceptional pass blocker. Hasn't allowed a single sack in any game that he's played in. But again, here's a caveat. He's played in 6. And so can he stay healthy? That's a question mark. But when he is, he's extremely valuable. The two guys that are kind of up for debate right now at right guard, Gerby Lambert was a highly touted recruit. He came in. He's a big dude, man. He's 6'7". He's 335 pounds. He's somebody that has all the potential in the world. He was originally slated to be a right tackle, but they kicked him inside once Charles Jagusah got hurt, and he's really impressed some coaches at camp. And then Sullivan Absher has kind of been their utility knife. He's a little bit longer than what Gerby Lambert is. He's 6'8". He's 327 pounds. He's an athletic kid. I think one of the things that's handicapped him is throughout his time at Notre Dame, they've tried him at right tackle, left guard, left guard, and they've also had him take some reps at center. And so it kind of begged the question, hey, if you ever need him to step into the starting lineup, did he get enough experience at just one position? I think we started to see that unfold a little bit throughout fall camp. It's why there's a position battle right now. I think the starter will be named here. If I were a betting man, which I am, I would probably say sometime in the next 24 hours. And then at right tackle, Emil Wagner. He's the only offensive lineman last year for Notre Dame that started, played, and finished all 16 games. And so last year, you're coming in with 6 combined career starts. This year, you're entering week 1 with 52 combined career starts and almost 3,000 snaps of experience amongst the bunch. So to your point, on both sides of the ball, these are 2 really impressive offensive line units going to work on Sunday.
Real quick before we continue, just let me cut in with this. We are simulcasting on Twitter. However, if you're watching us on Twitter/X, we want you here in the chat. So we're going to cut that off here in just a second. So again, if you're watching on Twitter/X, make it on over to the Miami channel here on YouTube.
Yeah, and if you're talking in the chat, like that's not actually streamed into here for any of the commentary or questions or anything. So yeah, come on over and join us here and everything. You know, I think this is a great conversation. Random, completely random. Just bear with me. My brain is crazy. I went to college with a young lady in the School of Music who has the same last name as you, Trevor. So I just literally looked down and was like, oh, Trobridge. Like, oh, there's somebody in one choir that I was in umpteen million years ago. So whatever. Anyway.
That's awesome.
So talking about the just, you know, some of the connections between Notre Dame and Miami, your former defensive coordinator was our former head coach, and Al Golden, who is now gone elsewhere. So I know that you have a new coordinator and everything, and the defense is one of the strengths. You know, your coach, Mark Freeman, played linebacker at a terrible institution in the state south of Michigan, native Detroiter, native Michigan fan. I don't talk about them and everything. So obviously having a strong defense is foundational just to the operations of, you know, the program and everything. So what should we expect from the defense? Do you think it's going to look schematically the same under Chris Ash? You know, like, so like, what do you guys do? How do you do it? And, you know, who are some of the players that you're going to lean on Sunday night?
Yeah, one of the consistents, I think, for Notre Dame's defense, they're still going to be fast. They're still going to be long. They're still going to be very athletic.
Okay.
You know, Cam, I'll be honest with you, man. I wish I had some of the answers to the questions that you had. I want to know what it's going to look like, because that's going to be the first time that I, in a game situation, can sit down and say, all right, this is what Chris Ash is going to do with halftime adjustments. This is how he's going to dial up certain pressures on third down, given the down and distance. Now, there are some inferences that we can draw, but it's tough. I mean, you got to go back to what Ohio State's defense back in 2014 to see what he was able to do there. Yeah. You know, I take what he did at Texas with a grain of salt. It was COVID. He didn't have the spring for install, and that team was really bad. That Texas 2020 team was not good. And so I take what he did there with a grain of salt. But, as far as I'm concerned, we've talked a lot this offseason on the Irish Breakdown podcast about Chris Ash's comments consistently in press conferences. And this isn't the Chris Ash defense, it's the Notre Dame defense. And in programs who have had sustained success before over a period of time, I'm talking like Miami throughout the 80s, bleeding into the early 2000s, you went through different coordinators. You went through different position coaches. But what was consistent? The identity on defense remained the same. It's going to be tough to gain yards, not going to give much up. You're not going to give up big plays. Now, I was talking earlier on the show about the 0-1 Miami team. Man, I mean, that team, if they didn't score a single offensive touchdown, they end the season 8-5. That blows my mind. But that's how good that defense was. You know what I'm saying? And so
I do. That was my sophomore year. I remember it very well. I had classes with some of those dudes.
See, that's what I'm talking about, man. But it's to the point where will Chris Ash be able to maintain that identity and say, okay, regardless of who they plug and play in at coordinator, the Notre Dame defense umbrella is still, hey, they're going to not give a lot. They're not going to give up a lot of points per game. They're going to have a stellar, long, athletic pass defense. Biggest question is going to be how they're going to be able to get, pressure on the quarterback. And like we were just talking about, man, it's going up against a really tough offensive line in their first matchup. And so we're not going to have to wait that long to find out what Notre Dame's D-line is made of.
Okay.
But as far as players to keep an eye out on, there's the obvious ones, right? Like Leonard Moore at cornerback. He's one of the best, if not the best returning cornerback in the country, and he's only a sophomore. Adon Schuler kind of steps into I don't want to say the role, I guess more the mantra of the role that Xavier Watts left vacated when he left for the NFL. He's now playing for the Falcons.
Okay.
Linebacking core is, I think, amongst some of the deepest in the country. Not ready to proclaim it as like the best, but I think they're in the top 10 discussion. And so, you got Drake Bowen coming back. He was one of the few people on defense that started, played, and finished all 16 games last year. And they got a host of people that are going to rotate in between Kingston Viliamasa, Jalen Sneed, Jaden Ausberry. Christian Gray was a cornerback who, again, another polarizing player in the Notre Dame fan base. There's some that think that he's the best cornerback that has played at the university, and there's some that don't think that he should be on the team. Again, he had a stellar first year as a true sophomore in the starting lineup. Things that he has to work on, but we're also talking about somebody who had the game-sealing interception against Penn State in the Orange Bowl in the playoff semifinals. We're talking about somebody who iced the game against USC with a 98-yard pick six that extended the lead to 14 and put that game away. And so for him, it's about playing more consistently. But I think Notre Dame, by the end of the season, can be in the conversation to have a top cornerback duo in the country. But again, the questions lie along the defensive line. You have to replace Riley Mills. You have to replace Howard Cross. R.J. Oben was a starter last year. He transferred in from Duke. Performance was a little underwhelming, but in one of the biggest stages that Notre Dame had, he had a strip sack for a fumble, and Notre Dame recovered it and scored on the next play against Georgia. So you're having to replace three key starters. Two of them were All-Americans. So I don't know if they possess necessarily the star power that Riley Mills brought to the table, but they will be able to come at you in waves. It's a very deep defensive line rotation. And then on the edges, they just got healthier. Boubacar Traore's back. Bryce Young, he's a 6'7", 270-pound edge rusher. That he's the son of former Hall of Famer Bryant Young. He's stepping into the starting lineup now. And so for them, it's just, again, there's going to be a deep 5 to 6 man rotation on the edge. And it's going to be more of a, while we wait for that player to emerge, we'll be able to send waves at opposing offenses.
So since you're waiting for a pass rush guy, do you think then potentially in the opener that Chris Ash will dial up maybe a couple more blitzes than maybe Golden would have done in the last couple of years to try to bridge that gap and get the pressure that you guys are looking for? Is that possible?
Sure. It's a possibility. I think if I were to guess, I would assume, and probably the same thing for Corey Heatherman, since he's the first-year defensive coordinator at Miami too. Your guys' defensive line has a lot more proven commodities with Ruben Bain coming back and Akeem Mesidor and Justin Scott stepping into the limelight now. But with Chris Ash, I think that the game plan could be very much a let's see how much pressure we generate with the front four first. Ideally, as a defensive coordinator, you want to be able to send pressure when you want to, not when you have to.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's going to be a lot of his approach on Sunday night. Now, I don't think it will take long for him. Look, we know what type of quarterback Carson Beck can be when he has time in the pocket and he's able to get through reads cleanly. So generating pressure is a major key to victory for Notre Dame, something that we're going to talk about tomorrow. But I would assume that when you start testing the waters, maybe on third down, I would expect some additional pressure, but I don't know if that's a Chris Ash thing. That just might be yeah, exactly. And so that's probably where I would go with that one.
No, that's fair. I mean, like, I just definitely remember when Al Golden was coach, like, we were trying to figure out because we didn't actually run his defense. Long story. I'm not going to go back there. Anyways, but just trying to figure out how to get pressure. These are the questions that we kind of had. So I was just wondering. Anthony Manzano, Corey Dean, as Mark put up there, he said Chris asked a question for him. Anthony Manzano asked this question earlier that I wanted to highlight because everybody always talks about it. So I want to, obviously talk about it. Does the depth or lack thereof on the defensive line, I know you said there's actually lots of depth, even though it's talent, but not proven, and the heat in South Florida, it's going to be hot, it's going to be humid, it's still August. Does that whole thing, does that concern you with the defensive line, with the team overall? Like, how are you feeling about, the strength and conditioning and hydration and everything? Because, there's a lot of teams who come down here and say that they're ready for it, and all of a sudden they're not. Obviously, it's a night game, so I don't know if you've seen it, but the way that the opening is in the roof, the opposing sideline is in the sun for the noon games. It'll be a night game. You don't have to worry about that. But just in general, like the atmosphere of of Miami, South Florida, hot, humid, still August before Labor Day. Are you concerned about that? How do you think that might, impact the team? Or you guys think that you'll be, ready, from a physical standpoint?
Yeah, I think I fall somewhere in between. It's definitely a concern to a degree. I mean, you guys get it. Weather is something that coaches and players only have so much control over. Yeah. And barring Notre Dame running out and practicing this week in sweatsuits and snow pants, I don't really know how much they can continue to prepare for the humidity. One of the things that does give me a little bit of confidence is, Lauren Landau, their strength and conditioning coach in his first year, had to get this team ready to open up the season down in College Station, Texas last year. And different climates. I get it. Texas more of the dry heat, Florida more of the humidity, especially with some of the storms you guys have been getting down there recently. It's very hot and humid. I'm not going to sit here and try to say, well, Indiana gets humid too, so they're going to be fine. Don't worry. It's not that. I get it, man. I get it. There's a reason why for spring break we would go down in March and, we're not taking vacations to Florida in July. So I get that completely. But at the end of the day, I do have confidence in their strength and conditioning coach. One of the benefits of playing at Notre Dame is that you do get to travel all over and you're not locked into a conference to where, like, let's say if you're a Pittsburgh in the ACC, relatively your climate, barring a trip down to Florida State or a trip down to Miami, that you kind of understand the type of weather that you're going to be getting. Notre Dame 1 week, they start the season off in Miami, then they're back in South Bend against Texas A&M. 2 weeks later, they're on the road against Arkansas. And, but then you kind of get the other aspect of traveling nationwide is, they go to Pittsburgh in November. I've never been out there in November, but I sure remember watching Steelers games growing up and what that weather starts to look like out in November. But then they finish their season out in Stanford. That's out in California. And so this team has had to get used to playing in multiple different climates. So is it a concern? To a degree? Yeah, but I think the overall depth is what's going to help this team.
No, that's a great answer. Yeah. I mean, what questions do you have for me, man? I know I've been, obviously leaning on your expertise for your beloved Irish and everything, but definitely open to flip it over. So,
Yeah, no, man, I appreciate it. I mean, we all know what Miami did last year from an offensive standpoint. I mean, number 1 in the country in passing yards per game, number 1 in the country in scoring offense. I think you guys were at 43.9 points per game. Seemed like there was a different Cam Ward highlight up every week on SportsCenter, and so while I know you guys have a lot of confidence in Carson Beck, there's a lot of pieces in between that you have to replace. Your top 5 pass catchers. How do you kind of balance your guys' expectations around they have a lot of talent, but it's relatively unproven to a degree at this level? How do you kind of look at your receiving core going into Sunday?
Oh, okay. So, I mean, there's two questions. So one, I think that I'll work backwards. I'll start with the receiving core. There's lots of talent. There's going to be more rotation from Miami in terms of who plays this year. Last year, we had 4 receivers. It was set it and forget it. It was going to be some combination of Sam Brown, Jacoby George, Isaiah Horton, and Xavier Restrepo. Might be all 4 of them, but it's probably going to be 3 of the 4 of them. Add in Elijah Arroyo at tight end, which allows you to be multiple with your formations if you have him out there as opposed to a 4th true receiver. But it was basically, so even if I were to put in Arroyo, it was them 5 dudes. That's it.
Yeah.
This year, you're going to see a lot more names. You're going to see a lot more rotation. I am working on my responses for our Q&A with One Foot Down, our sister site over on SB Nation, the Notre Dame blog. And this is one of the questions. And like, I listed no fewer than 10 pass catchers between tight end and wide receiver who could reasonably play, And so I think it's going to take a couple games to really separate who those top 8 are going to be. But I fully expect it's going to be way more by committee at receiver than it was. Yeah, because it was really just, okay, these dudes are all going to go pro. We got young guys with talent like Josiah Trader, who's going to start this year. He was a 5-star. He played in high school with Jeremiah Smith. Now, I know Jeremiah Smith is Jeremiah Smith, right? But he was another 5-star receiver on the same team. Everybody in America wanted JoJo Trader, right? So he has the talent. You got to go show it. 2 years ago, C.J. Daniels had almost 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns at Liberty. Had a foot injury last year at LSU. Everybody's forgotten about him. He's somebody who can go hoop. You know what I mean? Keelan Marion, first-team All-American as a kick returner, but he has 3 seasons with 20 or more catches in his career between Connecticut and BYU. He's somebody else who can go. Tony Johnson has almost 130 career catches. And those are just the veterans, not even bringing in the Malachi Tonys, who I'm really high on him. I think that he's going to be the guy. I know Ray Joseph is fighting for playing time as well. I'm sold all in on Malachi Toney. And there's others as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot more by rotation than you just, stapled on these 4 or 5 dudes.
Sure.
And so that is going to be the thing that really changes. I think that you can really have guys who are specialized in their roles. Like last year, we definitely had the jack of all trades at a high level in the receiver room. I think that you might have, a master of 1 or 2, and it's like, cool, you go out and do these things, you go out and do these things, and you can package them together in different iterations so you can run the schemes that you want to run. So that's kind of how I view the receiver room. Elijah Lofton, Elijah with no H, that is the correct spelling for anybody wondering. He's Brevin Jordan 2.0. I mean, they're both south of 6'3", 240 pounds. They wear number 9. They both went to Bishop Gorman. Like, I can't, they just have different names, but they're the same dude. So if you look at the way that we used Brevin Jordan, I know it was a different staff and a different time, but those are the things that Elijah Lofton's going to be able to do. He can be in the backfield. You can hand him the ball. Like, we moved him to running back before when he was an early enrollee before last season because our running back room was so thin at the time with injuries and things like that. So he can be in the backfield. He can play fullback. He can play H-back. He can move. He can be your interior pass option. He can put him outside. You can run trick plays. You can do all kinds of different things. So he's definitely a Swiss Army knife, and I think that we're going to utilize him in those kind of ways. If you're looking for your traditional inline tight end, Alex Bowman transfers over from Tulane, so he offers that. And then we have 2 freshmen in Luka Gilbert and Brock Schott who are also in that kind of a way. To Tom Spagnolo in the chat, I never said, and I'm going to put it on the screen, I never said Cam and Carson Beck are in the same universe. I never said that. I was talking about the receivers. Getting to the other point of Trev's question, I think schematically, Miami's going to look like Miami. And Shannon Dawson said, okay, like every coach does. You go to these conferences, you watch film. Oh, he's talking to somebody else in the chat. Okay, cool. Got it. Good, because I was about to say, I lost my mind. Sorry. Yeah, so, you go to the conferences, you pick up a couple different things to integrate into your operations and things like that. Now, where I will say about the quarterbacks, and this is something that Shannon said on Monday's coach availability, people remember the 3 to 5% of plays, which was, unscripted, out of, improvised, Cam Moore, and I said it when he did it, that throw at Florida, in the opener, you know the throw, the Heisman. I literally said that's on the Heisman reel. Literally, then in the opener, right? Everybody remembers those. Mm-hmm. Shannon Dawson was like, "Yo, our offense was 95% in structure and on time. Think about the quick pass game. Think about the screen game. Think about the run game. You're not improvising a handoff because everybody has to be together like a marionette on strings. You know what I mean? Like, you got to take your drops. If you're running that stretch play, you got to get there and get the ball to the running back. It's not just, whatever. So I think that so to have so much of the offense last year be within the structure of the offense, it then stands to reason that you're going to have so much be within the structure of the offense yet again, even though there is a different quarterback who has different skills and can do some different things. So I would say my expectations going back to overall for this offense, I expect top 15 in terms of total yards, passing yards, rushing yards, scoring. I do not expect number one again. Sure. Because it's number one. Like that would be asinine. There's
only one way to go when you end the season number one.
Exactly. I do think that this is going to be a very, very strong offense, though. So I know that was short story long, but that's just kind of how I look at the receiver options and the offense in general.
No, I get that completely. Brian earlier today on our show was talking about, look, Cam Ward, for all the off script and highlight plays that he had in 2024, he didn't get drafted just because he was an improv guy. He didn't get taken number one overall in the draft because he didn't really know how to run an offense, but, made the spectacular play. So 100% agree with you there. Shannon Dawson coming back for you guys is absolutely huge.
Oh, massive.
And one thing that we pointed out was, look, Mario Cristobal as a head coach historically has had successful seasons when he has a veteran quarterback that he can rely on. Look at him with Justin Herbert back at Oregon. Look at him last year with Cam Ward at Miami, and now he has Carson Beck.
Yeah,
I want to flip gears to the defensive side of the ball because, like Notre Dame, you guys are also breaking in a new defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
and there's been a lot of questions around what is this going to look like because it's so tough to go from. You can't look exactly at what Minnesota did last year and say, all right, Miami's just going to run the same exact thing because, to my knowledge, Miami doesn't have a Coy Perch on their roster in the same way that Minnesota didn't have a Reuben Bain on their roster from last year. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's when you're evaluating this defense, where do you find the middle ground, and what are some of the things that you expect to see on Sunday from the Canes defense?
Nah, that's a really great question, and that's the $64,000 question for sure. I think that you mentioned earlier, like my time in college with the legendary team, the best college football team of all time, the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. On that staff was Greg Schiano, and Corey Heatherman cut his teeth under Greg Schiano at Rutgers and ran a version of that at Minnesota. And he's coming to Miami, which is ground zero for that. Like when you talked about, okay, like Miami through the golden years, you know what I mean? Like the golden years of success of the program, not the golden years, because I know people are going to say that. But yeah, the defense had an identity. Like, we're going to be a little bit undersized. You're going to have, you had the Russell Marylands and the Jerome Browns, God rest his soul. But those are, and I mean, Vince Wilfork, those are few and far between. Like, even Warren Sapp was a tight end, and he wasn't the biggest defensive tackle, but what he was quick. He could play that one gap, and snap happens, bang, and he's by you. And all of a sudden, the offensive lineman is calling fire or whatever. Why am I looking backwards at 76? Like, we just snapped the ball. But quick, penetrating defenses, maybe a little bit undersized, but using speed as our superpower, even at linebacker, even in the secondary, throughout the history of the championship time of this program. I think that you're going to see a level of that. And so what those teams did, I think you're going to see a version of that now. because, Schiano cut his teeth here. He really grew up as a coach. He's taken that on the road twice at Rutgers, and that's been the foundation structurally of the defenses he's run. Been a little bit different because you're back in the Northeast and things, but like that's a lot of the nuts and bolts. Sure. And then you pass it on to Heatherman. He goes to Minnesota, does the same thing. Now he comes here, which is like great. Now Mario Cristobal has been very good at talent acquisition, wherein you're building the team to the prototypical size standard across the board of positions. So you're not having a player the size of Sean Spence, of Levante David at linebacker, really anymore. Rohan Marley, he was a great linebacker here, but I mean, he's 5'9", 200 pounds. You know what I mean? You're not going to have those dudes. You're going to have 6'3", 220 with length. So you can still have those players do the same kind of scheme, even though, like, when you look on the field, height-wise, it might look a little – height and build-wise, it might look a little bit different. So, I say all that to say, like, some of the things that they did do at Minnesota, we're going to do here. Some of the things that obviously the Schiano system has done. I don't know that we are fully able to be 2000 Miami, which is just cover 2-man lockdown and have, two of the best safeties ever to play the game, patrolling everything beyond 15 yards and figuring it out. But I think we're going to do some of those things, getting back to the real heart and soul identity of what a Miami defense should look like, especially schematically, which then leads me back to Al Golden, who went so very far away from that when he coached here and allowed that to happen, because either you coach it or you allow it, whatever. But then he goes to the league. He works for my Detroit Lions, goes to the Cincinnati Bengals, great, goes and coaches y'all, and all of a sudden, I'm like, yo, what y'all do and the way that you do it, that looks a lot like we were talking about. And he refused to do that. So I think that Heatherman will do a lot of those things, and just letting guys play freer. I think that when injuries happened last year, Lance Guidry went to some systems that were a little more cerebral.
Gotcha.
And you could see there was communication on the field, but it was one-way communication. Mish Powell, safety who came over from Washington, there were several times when you see somebody scoring a touchdown, his arm is over there pointing because he's passing a guy on zone, and the guy he's passing it to is, there with noise-canceling headphones just paying attention here, while the other team is celebrating on the sideline and changing the scoreboard. You know what I mean? So I think when you remove that, then you let guys think less and just react more, which we all know in sport can lead to more success, especially when you're playing defense, which is reactionary anyway. So hopefully we're going to be able to see some of that.
Love that. No, absolutely. Last question I have for you, Cam.
Yes, sir.
Transfer portal, this era of college football has been crazy. I mean, it's impacted every single team positively or negatively. I have, and this is just personal preference, I have a little bit of pause when it comes to looking at an entire unit that is made up predominantly of transfer portal players.
Okay.
When I look at Miami secondary, there's talent there. You got Charles Brantley, CJ, and I've been butchering his name all week. How do you say OJ Frederick?
Yep, exactly like that.
Boom. There we go. So I haven't been butchering it all week. But you got OJ Frederick coming back. He has a lot of experience. I think he gets a little bit too much hate for the performance against Syracuse. It was looked a little bit kind of the same way how Christian Gray at Notre Dame was looked at, just because of the USC performance. But outside of that, we're talking about a cornerback who, in Frederick, he was targeted 38 times last year and only gave up 14 receptions. But you have that bad game against Syracuse, and that tends to kind of be the running gag of you until you have the opportunity to prove it differently.
Right.
And so, but when you look at the other pieces in the secondary, I'm confident that come, middle of September, end of September, leading into October, that group is going to have enough experience together on the field in games that they're going to start playing collectively. But what is your realistic expectation for game one? 4 of the 5 projected starters are potentially transfer portal guys.
Yeah.
What do you expect from the back end of this defense with a new DC?
I mean, look, it might be foolhardy, but I expect them to not be terrible. I expect,
sure.
Not sure, because we saw terrible last year in so many places. So I know it seems like a low bar. I know it seems like common sense. We've seen worse very recently. And and to your point, OJ Frederick gave up 14 catches last year. 8 of them, or 9, came in the Syracuse game. So it's going to be looked at of like, oh yeah, well, how's your freshman All-American? It's like they kept putting him in a situation that he's not necessarily built for. You know what I mean? Like, basically, I mean, I've been playing a lot of college football 26. Those receivers all had gold 50-50 badges, and they kept throwing 50-50 balls and winning the 50-50 balls. Like, it wasn't like he gave up, curls and slants and digs and goes and flags and posts and they were like, cool, this one thing's work. This one thing works against him. Spam, 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 and you can't stop it. It sucks, but that's what happened. But in terms of the performance from the secondary, I mean, look, you have Frederic as a freshman All-American. He's going to start. You got Zach Poyser, comes over from Jacksonville State, was also a freshman All-American. He's going to start. Jacoby Thomas from Tennessee, Charles Brantley, Florida native, went to Michigan State. He comes down. Ethan O'Connor from Wazoo. Damari Brown is, a homegrown legacy player. His father, who I worked with, also was on the '86 championship team. Selwyn Brown, he got injured, I think, like 2 plays after Ruben Bain in the opener. Like, Ruben Bain got hurt on the second play, and I think it was not long after that Damari Brown got hurt. So, yeah, there's other guys there as well. So there's lots of talent. I expect league average performance. Is that going to be good enough? We will see. I'm not going to say, okay, it's going to be lockdown, 90 or 85 Bears, 2001 Canes, 2000 Ravens type stuff. But, I mean, the floor has to be raised by multiple levels. I mean, Miami's pass defense after the injuries last year was among the worst in captivity, even if you're talking mid-50s in terms of relative performance in ranking. That's the kind of performance that's delivered on Sunday. That would be a big step in the right direction. Now, hopefully, if we can get some pressure from up front, if our linebackers under new coaching and everything can start to also have impact in the game, they can patrol that second level and you get some pressure up front, maybe you get a blitz, maybe these things like that, and you can kind of help them out. That can then also improve their thing. So their performance. So yeah, there's lots of talent there. I mean, look, Jacoby Thomas is a senior. He's played for 3 years. I don't care that it's somewhere else. Charles Brantley is a 6th-year senior who came in during COVID. If you can't hoop by now, you can't hoop. So I know that there is I could foresee there being some still ongoing communication errors and issues, but I really expect this. I expect this unit to play to the level of excellence of the other units in this game, right? So if we're talking about offensive line and defensive line and defensive line and running back room and quarterback room and our running back room, I believe we have 4 or 5 starters in the room as well. No, there's nobody who's Jeremiah Love in our running back room. I'm not going to sit here and say that, but we got plenty of talent. Yeah. But they're all in a similar, roughly, kind of status in the world of college football. All of those individual units on both of our teams are in a similar kind of a range. And then there was the Miami secondary way down here. I don't expect them to continue to look like that. I do not want them to be Cinderella. I do not want them to be the redheaded stepchild who does not fit in with the other groups of the requisite caliber to be on programs of the caliber of Miami and Notre Dame. I expect them to look like they belong, and that's my hope. Now, whether they deliver it or not, ask me on, whatever time the game ends on Sunday night or Monday, but that's my expectation going in.
I get you, man. Well, hey, that's all I had. Sounds like we're both fired up. We're ready for Sunday, baby. We're ready.
Very much so, man. Yeah. So, I got a couple more preview pieces going up on stateoftheu.com. I'll definitely do, more of these talking things and everything, but I'm very, very ready. I will ask you just, one parting shot. Does any part of 2017, or does any part of 2017 linger in your mind of like, what I mean? Falcon or TRX, this guy even see Miami win in 2017. So he's saying that you have a baby face. Cool. But like, does any of that carry over of like top 3 team coming down here and how that game went and it went off the rails real early? Are you like once bitten, twice shy? Are you worried about anything like that happening? Or are you just, I think this team is going to compete pretty well?
I do think the team is going to compete pretty well. I mean, I guess my answer to your question would both be yes. I do remember it. I remember watching it. I've gone on record to say, look, man, I'm a diehard Notre Dame fan through and through, and I've been blessed to have this platform that I can go and talk about my knowledge of the game on and my love for the team. But that has been one of the very few games that I've ever turned off. And so, yeah, I know. But I remember the game. I do. And is there an aspect of it? Sure. The run that Notre Dame went on last year was one that I hadn't seen in my lifetime. Their win against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl and then Penn State in the Orange Bowl, something they hadn't done in 31 years. I'm 28 years old. I did not see the last time that they had a major bowl win. So I don't want to sit here and say that, well, this is just who Notre Dame is now, guys. Like that's why the season is so big to see, can they have sustained success? Now, I'm in the camp that believes that they can. They have to show me, and they get their first opportunity at that on Sunday. But, you always have that when it's this magnitude of a game between, two longstanding rivals in college football. You always have a little bit of that in the back of your mind, but the coaching staffs for both teams are completely different. There's not a single player or coach or admin in the building at Notre Dame that was a part of that football team in 2017 that's still there right now. Now, big picture, do I think that Notre Dame could go down and lose? Yeah, that's a possibility. Do you know how hard it is to start the season 1-0? It's difficult, and so, but do I think that it'll be a 41-8 game either way? No, I don't. I don't. The stages that this team played on last season with how much that they return, the moment won't be too big. Not to say that the environment isn't tough, but we're talking about a team that played in multiple NFL stadiums last year, played against Texas A&M on the road to open the season, played in the national championship game and the Orange Bowl. But I'm also not one of those people that say, well, they just got done playing in Hard Rock Stadium 200 days ago. They'll be fine. Yeah, they weren't playing against Miami. There's not going to be 50% Notre Dame crowd in that stadium. I'm also aware of that too.
Right.
But the change in head coach makes me a lot more confident, because if anybody's been keeping track of what's been happening at LSU right now, those big game environments, some of those games still kind of look like that. And through Marcus Freeman's tenure, some of those big games haven't really looked like that in his time. So,
got it. Yeah, that was just a thing that popped in my head. I mean, like, the Clemson guys always ask me about 58-0, which I was there for in the same stadium, and literally spent the second half counting the people in the sections I could see from the press box, because like they were a handful literally in each section because everybody was gone. So definitely know that. But in the chat they're saying that it looks like, and I'm looking at my computer with the forecast and everything saying, it might rain all day during on Sunday, and then just kind of be a sauna at night and anything. But hey, whatever happens, I think that's going to be a really great game. Chief Brody says 21-17 Irish. Charles Johnson says 27-20 Canes. Parting shot. Call your shot. What's the score, man?
We have not done our predictions yet on the Irish Breakdown podcast. I'll give you this, though. I do think Notre Dame wins, but I think it's close. There's a lot of question marks on both sides. But I think the overall big game experience combined with Miami kind of having to piece together a little bit more than what Notre Dame will have to. Every team has questions going into week one. But if we're looking at it at a bar graph, I think Miami just has slightly more questions to answer on both offense and defense than what Notre Dame does. So I think that prevails, but I have it being a close game.
Fair. I think that, similarly, I do believe it's going to be a close game and everything, but just hearing from so many people nationally that have written this game off as, like, on paper, you look at the schedule, okay, that's a loss, and then, hey, man, I don't know if it's pragmatic, I don't know if it's the, whatever, or it's the alum in me coming out. I got the Canes. So, we will see. Definitely will be there. Looking forward to the game, man. So this has been a really great conversation. Trev, thank you so much for joining us and everything, and just be sure you plug your stuff so people can go and, like, hey, I see what the website is. I'm going to go there and find out what your actual prediction is, because look, we didn't talk off screen or anything. You know what I mean? This is a tease for me too, guys. So I want to know, but man, talk your stuff. Let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can follow me on Twitter at ttro5. You see it on there. And then all the links to all the Irish Breakdown stuff is also on my profile. Check out the premium message boards, boards.irishbreakdown.com. Chief Brody, Tom, I know you guys listen to the show all the time. You guys know where to go. One thing that I like that what we do, yes, we're a Notre Dame show. I don't think of us as homers, because we try to provide legitimate analysis, and we're not ones that want to try to dupe people out of really thinking about what type of opportunity is in front of Notre Dame. And this is a really tough opponent coming up on Sunday night. And so that's where you can find us. We're going live again tomorrow. That's where we're going to do our predictions live at 1 p.m. tomorrow in the Irish Breakdown podcast. So check us out if you guys have the time.
Absolutely. Brian Driscoll and myself, we go back a long, long ways. He's a first-class guy, no doubt about that. And Trevor and I have recorded a few times as well. Trevor brings it, as we just heard, over the last 60 minutes. So check it out there at Irish Breakdown. Absolutely. And I will just counter the couple check marks on the Notre Dame side with the obvious home field advantage, experienced big-time quarterback versus a first-time starter. So it's going to be a difficult decision for me to make. I will say that. I do think Notre Dame's a little bit better football team, but again, experienced quarterback in big game situations versus a guy that's throwing a pass for the first time in a meaningful situation. And then, we did see 2017, and 2017, that Notre Dame team went 11-2. Like, if they play at any other time in any other situation, that's a toss-up game. But on that given night, with that crowd and with that momentum roll, that's what it turned into.
Man, it was. I actually usually go to one game as a fan a year where I'm not in the booth. And a buddy of mine used to write for us over at State of the U as a Miami fan. He's a Toronto native, so he came down and we were sitting. He got very good seats in the front row on the Miami sideline. And I've said this a couple. If you're watching and you've seen this before, I've told this story, but say it again. When Trajan Bandy picked that ball off and he's running down the opposite sideline, Ed Reed was giving a sideline interview with Maria Taylor. He left her standing there with the microphone, and this is before the renovation, so it had more space on the sidelines. So he jumped over the little beanbag kind of divider, came over to the front row and dapped everybody up in my row as Trade. So I'm dapping Ed Reed up literally as I'm watching Trajan Bandy on the opposing sideline and everything. And there were two older Notre Dame fans who were seated next to us. And that was the last time that we saw them because, they got up. They didn't even say bye or anything. They were nice gentlemen. I enjoyed sitting next to them. But, we had space to spread out after that because they made their way back downtown.
Yeah, I remember that play too. That was when I picked up my remote and hit the power button and then went on to do some college Saturday night shenanigans. Thankfully, I was broke as a joke in college, so I didn't have the opportunity to make it down to the Rock and watch that game go down. But
So, but hey, it was a good time. I went to Notre Dame to 16. Me and my buddies made the – like I said, I'm from Detroit. I'm from Michigan. I've driven by, that exit going to Chicago, going to other places, but I've never been to to South Bend until 2016 and everything. So, it's definitely a momentous occasion. It's a big rivalry and whatnot. So, definitely looking forward to it, and definitely appreciate you being on here with us tonight, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Thanks, Trevor. Great to see you.
Absolutely.
All right. Another great breakdown from our Irish Breakdown guys and Cam.
That was fun. Yeah, no, it's definitely knows his stuff. I thought it was a good convo. Hey, that's me, Cam Underwood, at Underwood Sports, stateoftheu.com. Seeing some guys who are putting some predictions in. Miami by 10, Miami 31-0, says Falconer TRX and Tony Hills. Falconer also saying that he was very good. I agree. Definitely some good stuff.
And the thing you get out of them, I'll just throw this in real quick, and I know this from talking to Brian for years and years and years, and having him on, is you could tell they have prepped Miami. They are not just a Notre Dame podcast. They have watched Miami play. They know the personnel. They've watched the games from last year, the key games, and so they ready themselves for the next opponent for sure.
Yeah. And we try to ready ourselves for the next opponents as well. We're always here. So, lots of great stuff over on stateoftheu.com. We are fully in game week mode. Got some great stuff up there. The first installment of our roundtable just went up today. Mostly talking about offense, but defense and special teams comes tomorrow. And then Friday, our season predictions, and then also some game predictions. A couple of pieces looking at the odds for both this game and the season are up there. And my favorite piece of the week from Rob Weaver, talking about the ACC and the perception issues that the conference is facing. So he listed his top 10 games that the ACC needs to win to improve their national visibility and perception. What are those 10 games? I'm not going to tell you. I will tell you, Rob has a brain, a very good brain as a lawyer. And yes, Notre Dame is one of those games. I won't tell you where it ranks on the list. You're going to have to go to sayether.com to find out. So, like I said, man, I know that we live our lives and take some vacations and do the things in, the summertime, but it is game week and we are all speed, full speed ahead, all go, towards Sunday.
Cam makes this go each and every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So make it on back, because we will, of course, break down the Notre Dame game and look ahead to week 2 for the Canes. So make it on back here next Wednesday night. And we will leave you with this. This is a promotion for our betting tier. And you will see all the great predictions that we've got on our track record over the course of many, many years. So check it out. Cam, we'll see you next week. Enjoy the ball game, of course.
Definitely, guys. Talk to you soon.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.